What's going on, guys? It's Prepared Mentality, Preparedness Talk. Again, I'm here with Aquil Bey from LiteFighters 365. He was in the Army Green Beret, licensed paramedic, and founder of the Tailored Defense Training Group. Now, I'm really excited to have him on. Already thanked him for giving us this time to teach us some things, get to know more about preparedness and defense, and explore his brain a little bit about what's going on now in today's time. So how you doing, brother?
Hey, pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, man.
Awesome.
So when I saw you first, I saw the pictures of Light Fighter 365. And for me, I like hiking. I like going on trails. I
Yeah.
like backpacking, the whole 9 yards. And when I saw what you guys were doing, I was like, that is amazing. That is great. And you guys go out there and you do it together. You're out there
hmm
together. You're supporting each other. You're out there with your
hmm
firearms. You're doing first
Yeah.
aid,
Yeah.
learning how to put on tourniquets,
Yeah.
bleeding, all that cool stuff that, we like to do in the field. And I was like, man, that's awesome. I was like, I have to talk to him, get him on
Yeah.
here and see what it's all about. So what is it all about?
So the LiteFighter 365 program. Let me go back a little bit into,
Sure.
and it'll kind of add some context to what it's about. So just talking about how operating at a this level, being on a detachment, being deployed, you're just operating at that level. Um, that requires you. There's a lot of implied tasks. Stay in physical fitness, eat the right things. You just that's your whole lifestyle.
Right.
So I retired, right? I'm not in the military anymore. 22 years, I'm done. And but the requirement to live, to survive, to win is still there, right?
Right.
You look at the George Floyd, you look at the average street robbery, right? It doesn't even have to be law enforcement, citizen interaction. There are bad people out there, right? So just because I'm not overseas in like a combat zone, that doesn't mean Baltimore is not a combat zone. That doesn't mean Philadelphia or wherever else, wherever we live, just kind of
Mhm.
just trying to navigate life. There are people out there that want what we have or whatever. So I'm like, hey man, like, you're not done. You still have to live.
Mhm.
And what's gonna keep you ready, right? Difference between being prepared and being ready.
Right.
So like, Taylor Defense Training Group, we're training. We're doing courses, we're teaching people how to basic firearms courses, advanced application, but there's still a mindset behind it, right? You can have all the tools you want, you can have all the guns, all the ammo, but if you don't have the mindset and the heart and the cognitive ability to employ it, then it's just useless. It is really useless. And I hope that we understand that. Like you can do all the training courses you want to take, right?
Right.
But if you're not like understanding what you're doing and you're not like practice visualizing it, and if you're not
Right.
ready to pull that trigger, if you're not ready to strike someone in their throat, like if you're not really understanding that you have to win, then
Right.
it's just useless. You're just kind of going through the motion to make somebody feel good.
Mhm.
So so I'm like, what can I do? Because the basic courses were okay to get me in a range, but I'm like, I'm still not at that level. I'm still not mentally at that level because in a way I'm become complacent. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
well, no one's gonna mess with me because of XYZ, right?
Right.
I got a gun or whatever. And it happens to me. And I know this. And I'm just like, man, I'm becoming complacent. I'm becoming just like everyone else because I'm not operating at the levels that I were.
Mhm.
So the Light Fighter 365, light fighter, meaning I don't have kit.
Mhm.
I used to wear kit and all that stuff when I first started training, but I'm not wearing kit anymore. That's not my role. So
Right.
I'm wearing regular clothes. Like, how do I win in regular clothes? Because this is my battle space. This is how I operate now. And the light fighter, so it's what I have. I don't need anything special, but my
Mhm.
mind and my anatomical weapons if need be.
Right.
And 365 days, every day I have to continuously stay ready, right?
Wow.
Being prepared means being trained, having the tools, the skills, right?
Mhm.
But being ready, like ready meaning like as soon as it happens,
Mhm.
my reactionary gap is I'm employing something right now. I'm taking you to the ground. I'm creating space. I'm doing something right now. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not hesitating. And it's like, how do I maintain that readiness? Just like when I notice that bag or that box on the street, like
Mhm.
I go through that OODA loop, I process it, and then I make a decision. I need to be like that just
Right.
walk into my car, So that's where the LiteFighter 365 concept comes from. So, we do pistol. It's basically everyday ready, everyday carry.
Right.
Rifle, shotgun for those that run those platforms, and then strike, just hand to hand skills. And then there's the survival program. So the survival program, which you saw, doing the movements and carrying gear, is basically was born out of the events that happened last year. The civil unrest, the pandemic, everything that kind of, this is a program we thought about doing like in 2018, but I won't say society wasn't ready for something like this. I wasn't ready to teach it because I personally didn't see the need for a regular person knowing how to do skills. I was like, no one's going to want to do this. Like I thought that they don't really need to know this. There's GPS, everyone's got iPhones, you know what I mean?
Right.
But not, because I'm like, we're in America, we're never going to fall victim to some of the things that I was exposed to overseas where there's no infrastructure, there's no signal, there's all that stuff. Right. So but because of the events of last year, really was like, okay, now is the time to really develop a program where we can be totally independent, kind of go off grid if we needed to survive these first 72 hours of any type of catastrophe, right? And there's a lot of skill involved. It's just, there's the land navigation, understanding how to read a map, like I ask myself now, like, what did we do? How do we even know how to get anywhere before GPSs came to our phones? You know what I mean? I was like, how do we get anywhere? Right. I'm just like, were we pulling out large maps? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how did a pizza delivery guy know to come to my house? You know what I mean? It's just, like, how did they do that? Right. So I'm just like, sounds like, okay, we got to get back to our roots. We got to really understand that, like, if technology goes down, because it will, what do we do? What do we do when we can't just plug in an address on our phone? Right. Like, what do we do? Maybe we need to start buying maps now, like just a area map or a country navigation map, something that we can use in case this technology goes down. So that's what it's about: teaching people how to read maps, teaching people how to use compasses, teaching people first aid, basic first aid, trauma management, patient assessment, right? Because you're more likely to use those skills than you are shooting somebody, right? Somebody could get cut, something like that. So I focus on the things that keep us ready again. So we're not just like freaking out, crying when someone's bleeding out. We're stopping the bleed, and someone's calling out, and we're managing the trauma. And and then, of course, there's the movements, overland movements, and learning how to build fires and shelters, like all those basic skills. So it's I mean, that's basically
awesome.
what it is.
That's awesome. So last year when the George Floyd event happened, what was your first reaction? Like, hey, this is something that I already planned to do with the LiteFighter course, or was it something that you were waiting for during, the civil unrest and the riots? How did that come about? Like, was it like, oh, you saw the riots and like, okay, our people have to get it together? Or was it more like you already had this planned and that just so happened to light that fire?
No, it's like I said, like I saw I kind of had the thought to do it in like 2018 or so, but I didn't like see the importance of it. I didn't see the importance of it, because I was like, we're not overseas. Like, why do we need maps? Like I said, but when all of those things happen, and you see this race war stuff trying to build up, and people buying like all these guns and ammo and toilet paper, and hand sanitizer, like all this stuff. I was like, you know what, like, if there was some type of civil unrest, like legit civil unrest, there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't make it. And they would be basically cache locations for people that knew what they do. They'll identify where their addresses were, and then they're like, okay, this is where we get supplies from, because they wouldn't know what to do with all that stuff. So the purpose of it is, to teach those basic skills, but then also to expose people to what mental toughness means and preparation really means, right? It's not a military course. The LiteFighter 365 survival, it's not a military course. It's not teaching people how to be guerrilla fighters or anything like that. It's just exposing them to different aspects of survival and letting them understand and kind of navigate that space. right? People quit. They just can't take it.
Right.
And it's like, hey, and I tell them, this is life. You
Mm-hmm.
can't quit on life. Sure, you can leave here. It's only 3 days, 72 hours. You can leave here.
Yeah.
But then what are you going to do when things get hard in life? Are you going to quit? How are you going to quit? How are you going to tap out? Are you going to kill yourself? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a really, and everyone that walks away, some people cry, like real tears,
Right.
because it's like, it's helped them in other aspects of their lives, as far as like, how they view certain things and how they view themselves. And they just didn't have the confidence or didn't think they can do certain things. But the
Yeah.
experience that they have through the survival program, it really touches a lot of people in different ways. And they grow from that. And just being through that type of hardship,
Mm-hmm.
those physical, mental, and emotional hardships that they go through in the program, it helps them understand what they think they're planning for, or just life.
Right.
And yeah, it's just a beautiful thing.
What's the most challenging thing about the course that people tend to fall out the most, or they have the struggle with the most in the course?
I can't, I won't get too deep into the course, but I would say it's internal,
Mm-hmm.
something within them. It's something within them that it's a wall. And I don't put people down to say you quit.
Right.
Like, there are people that go to Ranger school, and you go to Ranger school, you either got your tab or you didn't. I don't want to hear about you got cellulitis, you twist your ankle,
Right.
you quit. Or I personally broke my ribs in Ranger school, but I didn't know I broke my ribs until after, right? I was like, I know it hurt to breathe, but I'm not going to quit, right? So
Yeah.
there's no excuses. But for this course, I don't put people down because it's a different experience, right? I don't expect, I can't ask you to come, because I'm asking you to put yourself through something that you probably never been through before. And that's kind of mean and
Right.
cruel.
Right.
So I don't put people down. And depending on how far they make it through the course before they quit,
Mm-hmm.
I congratulate them and say, hey, good job making it this far, right? Because you've overcome however many mental and physical obstacles just to get to this point. I personally think you could probably keep going, but
Yeah.
if you tap out,
Yeah.
it's a conversation I have with everyone. If you tap out now and you think you can't go anymore, congratulations on what you've done so far. And maybe you can come back in 6 months or so and then make it a little bit further.
Yeah.
But it's just something within them. And sometimes they don't tell me. They don't tell me what it is, because it's like, I don't know whether they feel embarrassed or something, some trigger point or something that has happened to them where they just can't get over it. And that's
Yeah.
the goal, is to help them get over it.
Right.
But some people just can't get over it. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. It's definitely an internal battle when you are faced with that, physically and emotional,
Hmm.
and you're out there for 3 days. I mean, that's
Yeah,
no
you can't
joke.
turn it off.
You
Yeah,
can't,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think a lot of people realize how fortunate we are here in this country,
Hmm.
when they are out there in a survival, quote unquote, situation, where
Yeah,
they're just living off the things in their backpack.
yeah,
That's very important. A lot of people just can't get over that hump, which is
yeah,
okay. So the tailored defense training, do you get most of your students from that and then they get right into the light fighter course, or is it totally separate?
yeah. No, it's a combination, man. The
Mhm.
the Taylor the Fish Trainer Group is like the basic. It's it's the university. Wow. It's the university, right? It's the
Right.
basic platform and aspects of everything,
Okay.
right? Learn firearm safety, learn the principles of fighting, learn, it's all about the basics, foundation build up. The
Right.
LiteFighter 365 is application. It's like, it's taking all these cool guy videos that you see on Instagram, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you've done a day, you've done a few hours of this. Now we're going to show you how it works in real life, right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is all application based. Like you actually have to have taken some type of, doesn't need to be through us, it could be through anyone.
Hmm.
You have to have taken some type of firearms training course somewhere else. And then we're gonna teach you how to make it work in real life,
Hmm.
right? Under the worst condition. Well, I can't even say the worst condition, under different conditions that you probably ever experienced before in your life. And then we're going to show you how it works, how to make it work, how it just doesn't look as pretty, how there's no music, how there's no like,
Yeah.
lights and
Yeah.
bells and whistles. Like, it's like, fuck, people are like, damn, this is like, man, it's like, this is real life.
Hmm.
And if you can't understand that, then it's like,
Yeah.
maybe reevaluate your defense strategy, come up
Yeah.
with something more easier.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. Fun question here. What if there was any emergency or disaster that you would prepare for first, what would that be?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I personally try to keep an open mind when it comes to any type of emergency. And when I plan my own strategy, I work off of two basic principles. What's the most dangerous course of action? And then what's the most likely course of action, right? And then I use that answer to kind of plan and expend my energy to be prepared for. Right. So like realistically, honestly, one of my personal threats right now, or my concerns, are interactions with law enforcement, right? Like, you know, fitting the description. Right. Maybe I'm speeding, I didn't realize it. And then just that little, because that's an emergency to me, right? So I don't know who's behind that badge coming in. Is it the good cop or the bad cop? And I'm not bashing law enforcement. This is just my reality based on, you know, what we see today. So that's a big concern for me, how I'm going to interact and how I'm going to navigate my space through that. So that's one. That's something that's always on my mind, especially because of the tension in the country. The natural disasters and all that stuff, like I can go without food, I can go without sleep. I keep my key essentials with me. Being ready to deal with any type of trauma or personal injury or injury to someone else is another thing that I really want to stay on. And being a paramedic, that kind of helps that be the forefront of my head, because I'm constantly have to stay ready for any type of emergency that I get called for. So so there's that. You know, all types of, you know, again, what's the most dangerous and then what's the most likely. And you know, that's pretty much what guides my focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So being a paramedic, do you have that sense of awareness, especially going on calls where calls can be more dangerous if there isn't a police presence? Because I see now with a lot of cities, EMTs and paramedics aren't going into these areas without a call from the police saying all clear. So are you getting that, or have you gotten that in your profession, being a paramedic?
And it's kind of weird, right? Because there are those dangerous calls. I haven't really done too many of the calls where we had to. I've done a few where you had to stage out, just like you said, and then get the all clear before from the PD before we can go in. I have a few of those. But I've had more calls where like we've had seizure patients or just general illness within the facility, maybe a cardiac arrest or something. We're working a patient, and like I'm noticing like shotguns or rifles or pistols like around the home, and like my partners for sure did not notice it, and they're worried about patient care like they should. But I'm just like, all right, well, you know, just trying to look at the scene, making sure like no one has access to that gun and things like that. So you know, we say BSI scene safety, like body substance isolation scene safety. Those are like concepts that we drill into ourselves before we go into a scene. But some of us need to remember that we have to maintain that thing, because the situation changes on a dime. A dog could just jump in the room, you know what I mean? Or, you know, anything can happen. I have people in the back of my unit. I'm treating one patient, and then the family member is like, irate, ready to try to fight me, and I'm like, okay, like, you think that's the right thing to do? You know, so I'm like, you know, I can't beat anybody up, so I gotta like position myself and position the scene, if you will, try to navigate and structure the scene so I have protection just in case they do try to attack me and things like that, and the communication with my partner. But yeah, that's a constant for me personally. It's a constant evaluation until we're done with the call, you know, from start to finish, because anything can happen. But thankfully nothing has happened like outside of what I said.
Wow. That's definitely skills and things that you have to learn, especially situational awareness. A lot of people aren't aware of themselves, let alone things going on around them. So in this current time, you know, we have the whole thing going on with law enforcement. We have the whole thing going on with politics. Where do you see the country going as far as our community safety and things that we need to do to be prepared and stay ready for what might come next? Because I feel like we are the most vulnerable when it comes to this stuff.
When
So
we say we, who's we? Who's we? Define we from
the Black community.
Okay.
And so I just want to see where your mind is on that.
So that's a couple different questions. Where I think politically the country is going, I think according to the media, because the media really tries to feed and kind of create this narrative of how bad things are or whatever. I think the country, in some aspects, I think we're going in the right direction. And some aspects, I think we don't. And again, it goes to that media influence, depending on what station you watch, right? Which newspaper or article you pick up, right? Some platforms, we're on the edge of civil unrest, right? And others, there are improvements. So, you just got to have that emotional intelligence to process the information and then look for yourself as well. Come up with your own decision. Right. So in some areas, I think we're doing okay as far as like, and the things that really concern me are policies and rights, like gun rights, obviously, being able to maintain the right to defend ourselves and things like that. And then also reforms, certain types of reforms. I think ultimately, though, I think ultimately, this is me talking. I think ultimately we can't be too distracted by a lot of outside influences, and we have to focus on what we can do physically and personally to improve our little battle space, our little fighting position, right? I've responded to several emergencies and natural disasters in the country, and I've taken a lot of patience in. And we as individuals, and it may seem like it's going off topic, but this is like real. We as individuals, especially Black people, African Americans, we need to take better care of ourselves, right? Because across the board, we're suffering from diabetes, we're suffering from high blood pressure, we're suffering from, all these different conditions at a higher rate than any other patient demographic that I've seen, right? And no one did that to us, right? We can't blame that on anybody. We can't, we can't sit in our homes yelling at Fox News or yelling at this TV talking about, there's a race war coming and all that stuff. And yet we're on high blood pressure pills because we eating like 50,000 cheeseburgers a day or whatever, and we're drinking and we're, what I mean? Like, so it's like, if we really stop and think about it, we're a greater threat to ourselves than any other outside entity. So if we want to, where I see ourselves is going down the same path, maybe, hopefully that we will stop shifting our focus or displacing any type of anger to some other entity and just place some of that energy onto bettering ourselves, trying to see how we can get out of our own bad conditions, right? Our own financial status, right? I'm not rich at all. My company, Tail Defense Training Group, we are like almost like, we're not officially a nonprofit, but it's basically a nonprofit. Like this, like legit, like look at our costs. It's really, I'm really passionate about helping people. I'm not trying to get rich. I don't think I'm going to get rich off this thing. So everything is like, I'm trying to make it affordable so people can come, because I want them to get the training. So it's like, how can we get out of our financial conditions? How can we improve our physical conditions, our family units, like, like try to make those conditions better for ourselves and not look at like, try to just point fingers at everyone else. And hopefully that's the direction we go. And we have a lot of smart people in positions to really facilitate that. We got like, I like Tig from My Sister's Keeper. She's an awesome individual. She's working one angle. Colion Yor, like all these different people. We got KD, like all these smart people are able to articulate for the masses of where we need to go. And I'm just hoping that we follow those individuals and not just follow them, but really listen to what they're saying and make those type of preparations so that way we can live better lives.
Yeah.
Right. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. No, that great answer. I mean, it's compact, very diverse and well thought out, you know, your thoughts on it. So what's next for Tailored Defense Training, and your business? What, you know, what are you guys doing next? What's the next big thing coming up?
I don't know. I really don't know. You know, sometimes I think about shifting my focus as well, you know, because like, you know, you give a lot, like, you know, this is a lifestyle for me, right? So you give a lot and put a lot of energy to it, and it's like, okay, it consumes you a lot. So you know, sometimes I wonder not if it's worth it, but how long I can do it, and you know, I don't know. So I'm not sure. I definitely won't, you know, until that decision's made, I definitely want to continue to just help as many people as I can.
For sure.
Try to, you know, just get people out there and try to do whatever I can to kind of, you know, help out, and until I can't anymore. So I'm not sure. So
sometimes we don't know.
Which is, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
It's okay. I mean, I've gone over that myself. Sometimes I'm just like, dude, I don't want to do it anymore. You know, it's like, but that's cool. So where can people find you? Where can people get in contact with you if they want to, you know, be a part of what you're doing with Tailored Defense and LiteFighter? Yeah,
so if they want to attend the course, obviously go to the website LiteFighter365.com or Tailored Defense Training Group. I'm sorry, TailoredDefense.com, or if they want to contact me because they want to be a part of it, and I would say just reach out to me directly. You can email training@TailoredDefense.com or Bey@LiteFighter365.com, and then we can have those discussions as well. Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for having this discussion, taking the time out to have this discussion with me. And you guys heard it. Go and get the information. I hope you guys rewind this video. Like I say that every time I have a guest, because there's very important information, important details, things that you guys can learn and take notes on. Again, this is Preparedness Talk. Hope you guys are safe, healthy, and stay blessed.
I love it, man. Keep up the good work. This is awesome.
Thank you, man.